Today, we face more distractions than ever before in human history, and studies show that we can only work for an average of 40 seconds in front of a computer before we either get distracted or interrupted by our phone's notification. And before we know it, we're back to checking our Twitter feed or watching random videos on YouTube. And with these distractions, it becomes increasingly harder to find a focus to finish what we're studying or get any real work done. But there are simple strategies from the book Deep Work by Cal Newport that can help us improve our focus so we can study more efficiently, have more time for non-school activities, which will ultimately lead to greater happiness and fulfillment, which is what we're going to talk about in this video. And we're going to talk about the 4-step framework to achieve focus that Cal talks about in the book, how to avoid distractions, and finally, how to optimize your environment so that focus becomes easier than getting distracted. Let's get into it. Part 1. Now, when you're trying to achieve focus while studying, having a structured approach can make the act of focusing easier to do. And this is where we use the 4-step framework that Cal talks about in the book. And the way we can apply it is to first set a clear and exciting goal. So if you're preparing for your final exams, this can include finish reading 1 chapter of biochemistry or answer 100 practice tests and study the explanations. Whatever it is, you must choose something that is important to you and set a clear goal for it. Now, the second step is to track your progress with lead metrics. Now, lead metrics are those that you can immediately measure, like hours logged while studying or number of pages you read per hour. And these are useful to help you figure out how well you're doing and how you can improve. Now, the opposite of lead metrics are lag metrics, which is the real goal that you're aiming for. Now, like for example, acing your final exam. But the problem with lag metrics is that they are too far into the future and they take too long to measure, so they don't really give you immediate feedback about whether you're doing any progress. Because it is this immediate feedback that gets us motivated to do more of what we're currently doing. Now, the third step is to make those lead metrics easily visible to you. Now, this will keep you motivated and will allow you to celebrate the small successes that you'll achieve along the way. So what you can do is to get a physical tracker, like it can even just be a piece of paper where you write down time blocks and what you want to achieve in those time blocks. And after each hour of you doing some focus studying, you can mark that hour off from your physical tracker together with the other things that you accomplished in that hour, so that there's a clear and concrete proof of what you've just achieved. Now, the fourth and final step is to review or analyze what you accomplished in those deep study hours to keep you accountable to your goals so that you can do adjustments in your schedule accordingly to achieve more for the next day. And you can also use this to help you figure out how much time is needed per goal so you can set a more realistic expectation for yourself the next time you set your study schedule. Now, part 2 is how to avoid distractions. And I know, studying for long hours can be painfully boring because it's a low stimulus activity, and most of us have become accustomed to high stimulus activities like scrolling social media or watching Netflix. But remember that improving your focus is a lot like training your muscles, because every time you successfully resist the distraction to check your phone when you're studying, your ability to focus also gets stronger, and it means developing the ability to tolerate hours of discomfort and boredom, because your ability usually doesn't improve and grow overnight. Much like your muscles, it requires weeks and months of training to see some noticeable results. But what happens if you don't use focus but instead indulge in the distractions every time you experience them? Well, your mental muscles of focus also weakens. So with that in mind, what are some of the steps you can do now to help you avoid distractions? And actually, it can be as easy as turning off your phone notifications, because every time you hear a ping or see a notification on screen, this creates an open loop in your head and makes you curious about the contents of the message. And what happens is this shifts your attention from the book that you're reading to the urge to check that notification. And most of the time you will give into it. Now, another thing you can do is to set a timer on your phone and commit to focusing only on one task until time runs out. Because if you divide your attention among multiple tasks, like checking your phone every 5 minutes while you're studying or whenever you're multitasking, you will be spending time clearing the mental residue from checking your phone before you can fully get your focus back to studying. Part 3 is designing your environment. Now, in high school, I was always taught that self-discipline was necessary to become a high-achieving student. But since I ranked at the bottom of my class, I sort of accepted the fact that maybe I was just a person who lacked self-control. But after reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, I found out that the people with the best self-control are typically the ones who need to use it the least. And yes, there are other student qualities that are important for getting good grades, like perseverance, grit, and willpower. But the best way to enhance these qualities is not by trying to become a more disciplined person, but by creating a more disciplined environment. environment. And here are 3 ways you can design your environment to have better focus. And the first is to clean off your desk, because a cluttered environment will distract you from your important task. And the second is to keep your essential study materials within reach, so you don't have to stand up frequently to find the things you need, which will interrupt your focus. And lastly, put your phone away from you so it's out of sight. So these are just some of the strategies you can use to get and stay focused while studying. But actually, there are times that the problem is not that you don't have focus, but that you can't stop procrastinating, or you can't force yourself to start studying. So click this video and watch it to learn how to fix it fast.